No, I think this is really exciting. This is our inaugural podcast for Business, Biceps, and BS. So
I'm so excited. and BS is Boyd Search as well.
That's what I hear. Or balance sheet.
Balance sheet.
There's a lot of B's, a lot of S's.
That's right.
It was funny because when GSCPA, and we were at the Southeast Accounting Conference, and I come off from doing my session, and it was like the Shining twins came out and they were standing right next to each other, like, we have an idea. I'm like, okay, I gotta know what this idea is, right? It's like, and all they had to say was, we're thinking about doing a PA, and I said, podcast? Yes, I'm in. I want to do this. Go. This is awesome. So that was last June. So it took us a little while to get there, but now we're here. We've got a cool sideways, graphic in the back. Guy that's wearing, half business, and he's fully jacked though, fully jacked.
I did not model that. That was not me.
No, it's no. The idea of this podcast though is that we know, just as being CPAs for many years, that I think I have a robe at home that's been handed down from monk to monk to monk to monk, and so finally it's made it my way. And when I was a little kid, I wore it kind of like a Jedi, because that's who I wanted to be as Obi-Wan and Kenobi. But since they haven't made lightsabers yet, I was thinking, okay, well maybe I'll be a CPA because then I can wear it and people won't laugh at me. People continue to laugh at me, but I rue the day because I'm wearing glasses now and I'm successful. So that's all BS. So which is one of the points. No, we're really excited because in this particular series that we're going to be doing, and I think you echo this, Boyd, is we have an issue in the CPA world where everybody thinks we're of the same mold.
Right.
And it's the conversation we had before we started. I was actually showing you all those shirts. You're like, okay, I got this really nice shirt. I can roll up the sleeves. I can pop the collar.
Yep.
And you're like, pick the one that's different. So we went with the one from Bahamas. And like I was telling somebody else, I picked this. It was one of those things where my wife was like, yeah, it's a nice shirt. It's like, thanks. But I had one of those, what is it? It's called the bearded clam. It's a big old drink, comes in a bucket, and there's like 15 shots of something in it. And this is the purchase I made after having drank a bucket of that.
Oh goodness! Well, I said I wanted to loosen things up. Go with that shirt.
We'll have to get some good sponsors for this.
There we
show,
go.
Right?
I like it.
There's enough drunk accountants out there. But what I'm really excited about is one. I think that we have a lot to offer from the standpoint of being mentors. It really doesn't matter. Wherever we go, we are mentoring somebody. They are watching us. And what I find, whether I'm in the classroom, whether I'm in the boardroom, whether I'm in the dugout, it doesn't matter. Everybody's looking at the financial professional and saying, what is she doing? And I think that we have this platform that we don't really realize we have until someone says something like, oh my gosh, they really listened. They really learned something. And that's the moment where we realize, oh, we can really change lives. Yeah. So when the Shining twins came up to me over at C's and they said, hey, would you like to do this? I said, yes. I would love to do this. Anything I got to do. So thank you very much for participating today.
Thank you.
And we're going to learn a little bit more about Boyd Search, the CEO of the GSCPA.
Let's go. Who doesn't want to know more about that?
Okay, so let's just get right into this because one of the things that I found is absolutely fascinating, just from a Georgia perspective, is this HB 148.
Yep.
I mean, can you plant your flag any harder on the capital of Georgia?
It was pretty exciting. Unanimous votes all the way through on the House side and the Senate side. So we did our homework and had a lot of help.
So tell me about that because it felt like it came out of nowhere.
Yep.
And then because everybody's talking about, oh, it's so hard to be a CPA. I've got to get all these 150 hours, and it's one of the things. So I went through the 150-hour rule, and I don't complain about it. It was one of those things. Did it make me a better accountant? No, I guess. But when I got out into public accounting, I still had that first year shock. And it didn't matter that I had an additional 30 hours of education in a textbook. I needed real experience. Yep. So the fact that this is actually providing more opportunity for accountants and people that want to be CPAs, that is fascinating to me. How did you finally tear down this barrier?
So it did feel like it came out of nowhere, I think, for a lot of folks, but it didn't. It had been years in the making, if you will. The initial spark was out of Minnesota. So Minnesota filed a bill, 3 years ago, 4 years ago maybe, It feels like a decade, but just because of how much has transpired since then. And that really was the shot across the bow, if you will, of the idea of all of us having to be the same, state to state, jurisdiction to jurisdiction. We could spend hours talking about what happened in that first year, some battle lines that were drawn over that issue, but it sparked this conversation that a lot of people had been having quietly, probably more around the impact of 150, whether it was doing what we originally intended or not, but also around what's the profession need, what's happening politically and economically, and how can we start to solve problems and be proactive about it. And so we just, our board of directors, as an example, we started talking about it 4 years ago. We started talking about it with our council, our leadership council, which met just last week. We started talking about it on firm visits, company visits, in our chapter meetings and PIUs. And people didn't really, 3 and 4 years ago, people didn't really expect anything to happen. It was more like, well, we're talking about it. It's an avenue for people to complain that 150 doesn't do what it's supposed to, or the other way. Hey, I went through it. I was hazed, so they should have to be hazed in the same way, so we shouldn't change anything, that type of stuff. There was a moment a year ago, so one of the things that got talked about nationally in terms of this idea that a single state might change its pathways to licensure was this idea that there would be large states like California, Texas, Florida, New York, and others that would never go, that would never do that. So if you change in your state, your CPAs won't have access to these states that have the largest economies in the country.
The reciprocity. Okay.
Reciprocity, mobility, all of that stuff. And a year ago, my good friend and counterpart, Shelley Weir in Florida, called me with what was essentially a nuclear bomb on all of this that said, hey, she said, Florida's going to pursue a bachelor's pathway.
Nice.
And we're going to pursue a more evergreen approach to mobility, which is what we'd all sort of, not all of us, but a lot of us have been coalescing around. And that for us was rocket fuel. Because if our border state, the state that originally implemented 150 is going to change, it gave up a lot of permission to a lot of other states. So we were ready. We knew where we thought we'd go, but we needed to talk to our members. And so a year ago, we started town halls, and it just very, very quickly, it was pretty obvious what our members wanted, what they felt was right. Now, you're going to hear people talk about HB 148 and how they hope it solves pipeline.
Okay.
I did not sell it as a solution to the pipeline problem. That is about other things.
And I appreciate that because I think it opens up the door for opportunity for people who are already here. But pipeline's a completely different. And we're gonna get into that because that's something that really irks me. Having taught for many years as adjunct and on ground professor, and seeing these kids and what the instruction is. I posted something on LinkedIn the other day about it's been 25 years since I graduated from the University of Florida. Go Gators!
My oldest daughter's a Gator.
There we go Gators! But the only thing that has changed in accounting instruction is that there's less people taking accounting instruction because of the reason that it's super boring. It's the technical aspect of it. I love how beautiful it's balanced. You got the debits, you got the credits. There's things that, the trial balance. It has the name of what it's supposed to do. It's a noun and a verb, right? The whole idea though is that I think that we really approach this from a standpoint that we're almost trying to weed everybody out as if we just want the creme de la creme. And that's like la compatibilité au chocolat. If we want to do chocolate accounting, I'm going to go find somebody who loves chocolate and teach them how to do accounting. I know it's kind of strange, right? But I'm looking at it from the standpoint of how do we inject this down into the universities? Because from my perspective, and again, I'm always pointing the finger in, I will take full responsibility for everything I say here. That is the disclaimer that we have, right? GSCPA does not own my thoughts. However, it's really frustrating when I graduate with some top, and we came out as master's students with CPA licenses, as did everybody else from my, accounting generation.
Yep.
And all of us tripped over the starting line when we started at the Big Four. It was whether the PwC, KPMG, Arthur Andersen, EY, you put them all out there. Everybody started at the same place, and that was face down in the carpet going, what the heck did I just walk into? And it wasn't because we weren't smart. It was because we weren't prepared.
Yep.
And so the question comes, well, then whose responsibility is it to prepare us? And so this kind of brings up one of those things where I look at it and go, okay, we've got this really neat thing that's happening over in California right now. AICPA is backing, I guess there's two house leaders over there who they're going to take accounting and they're going to get some money for accounting instruction in high schools, but they're kind of putting it through the STEM curriculum.
HB 2911.
I got to know what you think about this because I have thoughts. What are your thoughts?
So I think there are a lot of different ways to try and solve this issue about access, right? Access to education, access to minds that aren't, we are a legacy profession. Something like 73% of those that come into this profession know somebody that become a CPA, I should say, know somebody that was. It could be a relative, a neighbor, somebody close to the family. And so I'm a fan of trying to find ways to create connective tissue where there isn't. I think that's our best way to finding, you talked about it earlier, I'd say a more eclectic mix of people, right? Because it isn't always about who has the best grades. I mean, we tease all the time that CPAs are also like therapists. They spend more time as a therapist almost than they do doing technical work, right? As they guide these businesses that they either work for or have clients that are. And so if that helps ultimately, if passing HB 2911, which is sponsored by, I forget the congressman's name out of California, it was originally 2 years ago, it was a different House bill. It had roughly 60 co-sponsors, bipartisan, and all just designed to allow grant funding K through 12. I'm in favor of that if it helps us get access or gives access to that community of people where we don't traditionally find ourselves.
I think that's fair.
So that would be why, yeah.
Yeah, and so my thought here is, and I guess the bone I have to pick with the AICPA on this one in particular is that there are so many other routes to get funding into the high schools, and my thought is that, well, if we're gonna try to hide accounting inside STEM, can you please tell me which of the STEM we fit into? I can't, because when people, I know it, I can hear the students in my head right now going, Dr. Naddy, it's just math. Like, right. It's not just math. Right. There is so much more to accounting and finance. I mean, just wrap your arms around the entire thing. You were saying therapist. It's professional judgment. It's math is like such a small amount of what we do.
We don't even do much math anymore.
So my thought was,
for us.
well, and okay, so this is where I think it needs to go, and it's not going to be the hill I die on, but it's definitely something I want to promote 2025. Yeah. Is I think we can do better. I think we can do better in the sense that, and I will challenge any type of legislator who wants to come and talk to me about this. I don't have the research yet, but I can get it. But I am a product of the system. I have colleagues who are the products of their systems, and I think we all agree that that accounting, sure, we call it the language of business, but it's truly the art of the deal.
I know.
And in that case, there was this, for a while there was a STEM and then there was a STEAM. Right. And they said, oh, we got an A because of the arts, right? Right. I truly feel that, sure, we're a little bit of math, but we are a lot of art. And the great thing about accounting is that we hover across the entire STEAM, right? We are the STEAM that's right above everything that's out there. And so without accounting, without the financial component, none of these things exist. It's great that you can build a wheel, and if you can't sell it, you have a problem, right? Lots of people have great ideas. Heck, I'm over at the Savannah College of Art Design. They've got creative stuff coming out of their wazoos. Yep. And the biggest issue that those students have is, how do I capitalize on this intellectual property? And so the art that I bring to the creative community is accounting. Now, that someone's like, what are you, creative accountants? Like, yeah, there's a lot of people out there that catch them if you cans, the WorldComs, the Enrons, what have you. They are extremely creative in what they did. But from that standpoint, it's like we can be creative with the way that we ply our trade and still have rules and still have parameters and still have regulations, right? So that we don't get curmudgeons like, oh, this is not my accounting system. But I think if we looked at it and we said, what if everybody says we're the language of business? What if we just started teaching accounting as a language? For example, in high school, what language did you take in high school?
All of them, Spanish, French, Latin. I couldn't learn any of them, but I kept trying.
So how many years did you have to take in order to have your college prep?
Well, I took Portuguese at Ohio State, and I took we were on the quarter system. I took 4 quarters of it.
Okay, so in order to get your college prep, right? So I took my dad forced me to take Spanish in elementary school. And he just said he just didn't want me coming. I was a latchkey kid. But he's like, you're not going home. You're gonna stay at your elementary school. You're gonna learn Spanish. It's like, this is the worst. Dad, I cut out all the time. I used to get in trouble for it. I don't even know what any trouble means and how to say it in Spanish. But took 3 years of Spanish. I got into middle school. Took 3 years of French. Right, Madame Auclair. That's why I learned how to say chocolate accounting. I've got 3 years of French. Then I get into high school. So none of that counted. I get into high school and we start taking German. Why? Because Lisa Allgaier, our German teacher, was the swim coach, and she was winning championship after championship, and she had a great platform. Come with me, you'll be a winner. Oh, and by the way, we're going to go to Germany every other year. Like all my soccer friends, we jumped into German, right? So we took German.
Sounds like my brother. He was a swimmer, took German, and went to Germany. So.
Oh, very good, right? Yeah. So I had my 2 years. Actually, took 4 years of German, and then when I got to college, I had to take 2 more semesters of German.
Yeah.
Well, not of German, but of a foreign language.
Yeah.
Because it was a liberal arts beginning.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at this going, wait a second. Why does it have to be a foreign language? Why can't it be the language of business? Why can't we, and here's where I come back and I go, Mom and Dad, if your son or daughter were to come home and say, I got to take 2 years of Spanish. I got to take 2 years of Japanese. I can't believe I have to do this foreign language credit. And they go, wait, they look down a roll and say, accounting? You can take accounting as a language? You're taking accounting. But Mom and Dad, and like, no. You don't understand. Now I don't need to teach you how to do a budget. You're going to learn it, and you're going to bring those life skills.
It's like a financial literacy.
It is a financial literacy.
Yeah. I have no idea how we'd get that done, but
I've got some ideas.
I'm not surprised.
Well, here's where we go with this, though. So if we can get the languages in there, so you have the high schools covered, and you have the universities covered. So everybody accepts that yes, accounting is a foreign language until you learn it. Once you learn it, you now know how to. Basically, I call it speaking suit, right? You can speak suit when you're in the boardroom and all those people with the fancy suits and they got their big degrees in the walls of me. You can speak to them, and they appreciate it because you know the buzzwords, you know the rules, you know these things. But you still have your personality that you're putting forward. The fact that you know these things going into school and then you take courses, again, to replace the foreign language credits, I think it should be taught in a liberal art. We have it's a Bachelor of Science. I think accounting is a Bachelor of Science, correct?
It is.
Why?
I have no idea.
It's because no one's ever asked. It's the same reason why when you have contracts and you're like, hey, why is that coverage for the insurance coverage $10 million umbrella? And they go, I don't know, it's just been there for years. Like, well, it's not going to be there anymore. It's like, okay. And nobody fights you on it. Like, okay. So the thought here is that I think, and this is going to be something I run after, I'm going to try to get in front of some education folks this year. Not only talk about curriculum, but also using a forum like this to really garner some support to say, listen, guys, the pipeline issue, it's our fault because when they get to the universities, it's like they've got promise, they've got a shine in their eyes, and they get there and we go weed out, and all of a sudden we're forcing them out of the conversation. And that's not the way we should do it. We should be like, oh my gosh, you are super creative. You have engineering skills. You have financial.
Yep.
You guys come join us because we are the leaders of business. We are the universal translators across the globe because we all speak accounting.
I've long taken exception to the weed out classes, and there are a lot of really smart people that disagree with me on that wholeheartedly. But for a lot of the very reasons you're talking about, because we're trying to find the same person as opposed to finding a bunch of different people. And you've really got to learn, or I guess learn in a fairly specific way, or struggle a lot, which there is something about the struggle, right? Mm-hmm. To get through those intermediate classes, right? And to get through those weed out classes. But who are we leaving behind that would have made an unbelievable leader in the profession, that would have gotten through an undergraduate degree and passed the exam and then done something that none of us would have thought about?
Which, by the way, is the reason why this 150 rule being jettisoned is so awesome. So when the AICPA years ago decided that they were going to allow the test to be taken over the course of 18 months, and that you can take it, in parts, right? In different parts.
It's 30 months now.
Is it 30? My goodness, they're just shooting themselves in the foot.
Well, no, I mean, we advocated for that. But.
Well, okay. Well, so here's my thought: is that now the Big Four is forced to hire talent at a bachelor's level. And what ends up happening is that these kids come in and they realize, because again, as CPAs, we're just horrible at mentoring. In general, we're so busy. It's like, you have your work, I have my work. Put your list of questions here, and when I have 20 minutes, I'll go through your questions. Unless you're spinning your wheels.
It sounds like you're describing the QC process. It's quality control process.
It's all of it, man. Like. We just need to do a better job of just
mentoring.
Nurturing them. But that in particular, I look at it and go, there's got to be a way for us to ease that transition. And what ends up happening is that you have people that come in and they get two busy seasons, which, by the way, in the year 2000, when I rolled out, once you had 2 busy seasons, you were golden. And then, of course, Sarbanes-Oxley came out, and we couldn't go jump to clients anymore, right? But that shows my age. But the idea there, though, is that once you get 2 busy seasons, you can go anywhere you want. Everybody still values that 2 years of public accounting and says they know what they're doing. Come on over here. I'm going to double your salary. I'm going to halve your hours. And man, we're so excited you're here. So there's no impetus for them to go and get a CPA license now, because now they're already being taken care of. Whereas before, it was the crucible you had to. It was a Rubicon you had to cross in order to even get into these towers of accounting prowess. And now it's not that's not the case. Go ahead.
Well, no, I mean, so thinking, you mentioned getting in front of educators on all this, right? And my first probably wrong assumption was, he wants to talk to professors, but you probably want to talk through K through 12 educators, I imagine, or all of them.
All of them.
But if I can talk specifically, professors, college and university professors, and whether they're adjunct or whether they're CPAs or PhDs or both or whatever. We did just approve last week a new initiative for us, which is we used to have a dues rate for educator members. It was the same as an associate member, which is a non-voting member. But if you're a CPA and you're an educator, you could pay the lower rate compared to what a fellow member pays, a CPA member, and be a member of the Georgia Society. Well, we had about 80 of those. Okay. And there's far more educators, whether they're CPAs, PhDs, or again, both or whatever. In Georgia alone, right? Yeah. And so how do we create connectivity with a community that we have always supported financially? We have a great foundation that provides, this year we provided over $150,000 in scholarships to 60 students, that kind of stuff. But how do we create that connection between you, our member, and the marketplace and educators? And so the initiative is we're providing free membership to any full-time educator that happens to, in some way, teach accounting or even within the business school or whatever. And the idea, hopefully, and we still have a lot to figure out on just gaining access, gaining trust, those types of things, is to create this connectivity between the profession and education. There are other states that do it. The AICPA even does a pretty good job of it at times as well. And I think it's something in Georgia we have done a good job at being in the room, but not necessarily creating this connective tissue, if I can use that again, that I hope we get to do with that. So we can, at a minimum, talk about these types of ideas. And if they don't happen immediately, maybe like HB 148, you've done your homework, you've talked about it enough, and then all of a sudden it feels like something's happened really fast.
So I'm a big fan of A/B testing, right? So it doesn't have to be something where we roll it out across the entire state. Why don't we just take one school board and say, hey guys, let's just test this out in your high schools. We're gonna try this out, and whether we give them foreign language credit or not, we can try that language thing and just see how many kids are actually interested in doing this. And then after 2 years of this education, of the second credit, if you will, why don't we come up with some kind of test that says, hey, you have the proclivity to go towards an accounting/finance/ pick a business orientation, and it's because you had this really interesting training. Someone actually poured a little bit into you before you got. And I have to declare a major. I'm so stressed out. What am I going to do? Gen Ed credits, blah blah blah. No, now you have a path. It kind of goes back to the FBLA model, the Future Business Leaders of America. I always looked at that and I thought, what a strange organization when I was in high school, because back then they were learning about marketing. They were learning about, but it was a group of kids. It was like an actual
club,
like a club, yeah. And they would take certain courses, and they would talk about this stuff. And at the time, I wasn't Alec P. Keaton. I wasn't wearing ties to school and stuff. So it's like, okay,
and we're still not.
I just wanted to play soccer, right? Right. But I do have. I think I have a solution that I think can work inside the university setting. And the conversations that I've been having recently with not just professors and administrators, but also other CPAs, colleagues, and bi-coastal, doesn't matter, they're all over the place, is I truly think that in order for us, like this whole weed out principle, I get it, I understand what they're trying to do, but I think that they're weeding out because they don't want to pursue the next course, because we do such a horrible time teaching financial reporting. Financial reporting, it's in my case, I'll skip to the end. I think we need to teach cost accounting before we teach financial accounting.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? Because when I'm teaching a whole bunch of creatives at SCAD about hey, this is your idea. We're going to build a company. We're going to build a pro forma. We're going to talk about cost, volume, profit analysis. You're going to build an investor presentation, and you are going to get funded. In the next few weeks, you're going to actually operate your company to where now you have to give me an annual shareholder meeting to tell me what you just did and why I should continue to keep my money in your company for the future. I can replicate that. I can make it, that curriculum can be replicated at a high school and a college level to where this is cost accounting wrapped in an entrepreneurial flair. This is what you need to capture. You have to capture these people where they want to be. It's like, do you have an idea? Do you have a dream? Let's use a class to build this out. And oh, guess what? You're still a freshman in college. So if that has legs and your professor goes, hey, you might want to look at this. Now you might be the next Mark Zuckerberg. And so all of a sudden you're looking at it going, hey, I'm building a business while I'm finishing my degree. I'm building a business. And by the time you graduate, you may have investor dollars. You may be at your Series A, right? I know that's a lot. It's very accelerated. But the point is, you have to teach them how to understand, like how to build a business and what the numbers do before you ever tell them to communicate it to somebody who's going to be making a decision on your loan or buying your stock. And so I think one of the easiest things we can do is make cost accounting, managerial accounting, a prereq for financial accounting. And that one subtle switch, I think, will actually change a lot of minds to where this is really interesting. Because that was the class that turned it on for me. I made it through the weed out classes, but it wasn't until Susan Crossan taught me cost accounting. And at University of Florida in the summer.
FIFO and WIFO hit, huh?
Oh my gosh, it was awful. I was like, I struggled with that class. And then she told me to read The Goal by Eliyahu Goldratt, and my entire world just opened up. And I give her credit for it. Every time I see her, I give her a big hug. Thank you for making me the man that I am today. And it's Mother's Day. I love you, Mom. But but that's when I saw how accounting could really be used and effective. And now I understand why you report it on a balance sheet, on an income statement, on a cash flow statement. That's the normal transition, because the first thing we're doing in a garage when we're building a new company is not thinking of how we're going to report this information to somebody.
Right. We're
thinking of how do I grab the next $50 to buy that one component so this thing I can try to get this prototype to work. That's what we have to capture, and we can do it because we're accountants. That's my thought. we'll see what happens.
And I think you hit on something in terms of back to this accounting as a language thing. You mentioned, hey, start with one school board. There is precedent, not just in Georgia, but in other states where, accounting, we've tried to get accounting as an AP class, right?
Okay.
In high schools for a long time. And for a variety of reasons, it hasn't happened. I'll stay away from those. Yeah, you're going to be fired up. But we do have universities in Georgia that will accept, a certain accounting class or whatever, and they will accept it as AP, even though the College Board hasn't acknowledged it
Interesting,
yet.
okay.
So my point in saying that is it could be, do you start with a school board or do you start with a university or both? And so making it up, if you were to talk to the folks at Georgia Southern, hey, we this accounting is a language thing, and you have that conversation with a university, just Georgia Southern as an example, and then you find a school board that's willing to do it, and then kids that are gravitating from that school board to that college have sort of a pathway that connects all those things together.
Well, then I'm going to call you when we start working on that map. You're the Google Maps.
I hope so.
You're the Google Maps of accounting right now. The ways.
How to get things done.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I'm incredibly passionate about is to make sure that kids have the most opportunities. I call them kids. I tell my students all the time, it's like, if I call you kids, I'm so sorry. It's not patronizing. It's not condescending. You're just younger than me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it's actually affectionate. It's. Yeah.
So my thought is that I want to be able to open doors, and it's the same thing I tell my sons. Like, look, any decision that you make, every decision you make costs something. So what's it going to cost you for we can talk about opportunity costs and irrelevant costs, all those things. But the true matter is that if you make a decision to go down this path, is it going to open more doors for you? Or are you starting to make a decision like, I want to go into neuroscience? Okay, those doors close. You are now focused, right? I want to go into medicine. Okay, which medicine do you want to go into, right? And so eventually we find our way. It's just like on the CPAs. We find what clients we like. We find what industry we want to be in, right? But we start off with this gigantic smorgasbord of, I want to take some of this. Oh, so good. This little cactus here. I would eat it if it wasn't fake. No, it's all these different things that we have at our fingertips. But it's usually a mentor or someone who has spoken something into our lives say, you're really good at this. Like, really? You think so? And all of a sudden, you're the accountant for Pixar,
That's how it worked for me.
Tell me your story.
I mean, I thought I wanted to go into politics. My dad was a...
Well, you're kind of there, bro.
Well, I know. That's so full circle, right?
You got a face for politics. That's look at that smile.
A voice for radio. Face for radio. All right. So I got a degree in political science and a minor in economics, and thought I wanted to go to law school, and I had worked on or volunteered on a couple congressional campaigns while I was in school, and volunteered on George Bush's unsuccessful campaign against Clinton.
Okay.
I climbed in and out of coal cars, hanging signs as he did his railroad tours. And anyway, long story short, decided not to go to law school. And it was like, okay, well, what am I going to do with a poli-sci and economics degree, right? And I had no idea, because I had always been focused on that I'd wind up in law school, and that was going to solve the what I do thing.
All right.
My mom's like, well, you should go into sales. So I got a sales job, and boy, that lasted 6 weeks. I didn't like rejection. I didn't like, I was not good at it. And apologies to the guy that hired me. Got engaged, got married while going back to school full-time and working full-time as a bookkeeper, and got my accounting degree because that's what my dad's degree was in. My future father-in-law, now father-in-law at the time, was a CPA attorney, oddly enough, and got my accounting degree and wound up at the Ohio Society of CPAs through a much longer story that I won't bore you with now, but and ran into the CEO of the Ohio Society at the time, a guy named Clark Price, and he was my mentor. I didn't realize it at the time.
Sure.
Mentorship is one of those things where we try and do deliberately all the time, and I just think it's a really hard thing to do deliberately. I think it has to be an organic process and nature to it, and it's happening. You don't even know it, kind of. And you might even be mentoring and not even know it, right? And that's how it worked for me. But I'm not a CPA. I'm a CAE, a Certified Association Executive, because I figured out very early in my tenure at the Ohio Society that that's what I wanted to do. And Clark helped me find that. Yeah.
That's really cool. So the associations, so you get that legislative kick, right? You get to rub elbows with the bureaucrats.
Yep.
And now, as far as red tape, do you like it?
Red tape?
Yeah.
In what sense?
I mean, when you're bound with it, can you rip it off? Or
no,
you just slip right through it.
I would rather cut through. Yeah,
a samurai sword. Or
I'm a rule follower at my core. You know, when it says get over left because the lane's gonna end, I'm getting over left. And
oh my gosh,
so
we couldn't be more different.
Well, my brother, the engineer, tells me no, it's a zipper merge, and you should just go into the zipper merge.
It's a zipper merge.
Correct.
So I'm glad that an engineer has actually staked his claim on this one, because I'm the same way. It's like when those cones start moving you over, it doesn't mean a mile back you have to merge.
Correct.
It means when those cones move you move.
Right.
Or the cones move.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, yeah. So, I loathe, we talked about it before we started. I'm not real big on formality. I don't like coats and ties, because somebody at some point in time said we have to wear a tie to this thing to be, I don't know, at our best, because I don't think that I think being comfortable in your clothing is what makes you at your best, not being what
I feel really good right now. Thank you. I'm at my best.
You look really good.
At my best.
So yeah, I'm a rule follower, but I don't like things that don't make sense. And I enjoy the process of trying to root that out. And finding function within dysfunction.
I do want to know, can you tell me some of the initiatives that you guys are working on?
I talked about the educator one, right?
Yeah.
So there's that. You're sitting in our new studio, right? We've moved offices.
Beautiful, by the way.
Thank you. Obviously, we're still building the muscle on how to use it and how to produce things more consistently and routinely, and because we'd love to. The idea is that we're going to build a volume of evergreen and timely knowledge that our members have access to, just in ways and in volumes we haven't done in the past, right? We've always been an aggregator of information for the most part, particularly when it comes to CPE. And our goal is to provide our members a platform to not only show who they are, build their brand, talk about what they know, but ultimately then deliver value to the broader membership. So that's sort of the thing I'm most excited about, if you will. We've talked about pipeline a little bit here and there, and we hit on this legacy issue. We have a program that was started by Smith & Howard 2016, 2017. It's called Rising Professionals. We work directly with the City of Atlanta Public Schools, and we bring a group of high schoolers in for a full day into the office. And they have to apply, and their parents can come and watch, and they meet CPAs. They meet CPAs that look like them, that come from where they're from. They meet CPAs that don't look like them, that come from entirely different worlds, and gain access and an understanding, awareness of, right? They compete in a bunch of different games through the day, so it's all, it's not sitting there listening. It's actually actively engaging and having a good time, a lot of laughter. And ultimately 10 to 15 of them walk away with prize scholarship money that they can use. They're high schoolers. They can really use it for whatever they want, but the idea is they're going to use it for college testing fees, college application fees, and things like that. So we're trying to build awareness and connectivity to the profession in communities where we haven't historically done it or done it well.
Great.
And we have a group of members in Savannah that are actually want to expand the program and hold it in Savannah as well in the fall, and we hope to be able to take it around to other cities in Georgia. So yeah,
that's fascinating. Anything that we can do to help the next generation really understand that this is the linchpin for business. A lot of people. I mean, I get it. I get there's other disciplines out there, but when it comes down to it, you can't run a business without the accounting and finance function, and you need really good people. And they certainly there's room for the person that has their head down. They look at your shoes when you talk to them, and they're just cranking it out like Rain Man. I get that. But for the most part, you really need those people that can engage. And the way we get those engaging people into our profession is we go find them where they're engaging,
Right.
and we turn them into accountants.
That's right. We need storytellers.
Storytelling, Les, I love it.
It is if I'm ever in front of, I'm in front of college kids a lot, but there's that kids term again, right? That
Yeah,
word.
bunch
But
of kids.
yeah, they're compared to me, they're kids. And I tell them, look, I honestly don't care what you know. Your ability to tell a story is what's going to set you apart. And having that story be authentic, and having the courage to be authentic, and that's what's going to set you apart, because ultimately, attitude will trump aptitude. And I'd rather hire attitude and train aptitude than I would hire aptitude and try and train attitude. Right. And so I just think broadening.
Man, my mind is going right now. Keep going. This is good.
Broadening the entry points into the profession without, we're back to HB 148 a little bit, but without lowering standards that's a big deal, because I think you can still have the necessary hurdles that show commitment, that show knowledge, show all this stuff, but also bring in a wider group of people. I kind of never, if I can go back to it a little bit.
Time does not exist in the podcast world.
That's right. HB 148, I talked about how I didn't sell it as a pipeline initiative. Everybody takes it as that.
Okay.
And I have coworkers and leaders on my board and throughout the profession that believe it will absolutely expand the pipeline, and I hope they're right. But it also acknowledges some of these things that we're facing. There are political wins, okay, in terms of deregulation and other things, and I think you have to show a willingness to be a part of solving some of those issues. You talked about red tape, right? So is there too much red tape? Are there too many regulatory hurdles and things? And we have to be a constructive voice in having those conversations. And a deconstruction of the pathways a little bit, if you will, or as we added to them as opposed to deconstructing them, I think signals the profession's understanding that there are also economic forces at play. College education is not getting cheaper. Mm-mm. Access to it is going to get harder as you see smaller universities that do not have large endowments going out of business. Yep. Forbes released a list, I forget how long ago now, but there are 2 in Georgia that they would call going concerns, if you will. And there's a great number of them around the country. And so if education is getting more expensive and some universities are going away, so access is going away, we have to be really, really deliberate in finding ways to continue not just maintaining the width of entry into the profession, but making sure we grow it. So,
yeah, I think that all makes sense. So you just spurred on my brain's on fire right now, because I think that our accounting curriculum, I think we need a storytelling module. I think we need a video production module. I think we need something where you are forced to storyboard heck, it could be making a movie.
Yeah.
But the point is that what's the whole point of this? You are telling a story, and and at the end, how are people reacting to the story?
That's right.
So now replace that with, guns and fast cars and scantily clad women and all this stuff, right? So replace it with all those really thrilling things. Replace it with numbers. Yep. And now tell me the story. This is what I tell my students on the on Proforma is, so if you're doing an investor presentation, said the only numbers that should be on that Proforma slide, and I know people are going to be the 4 people that listen to this are going to be like, no, that's not right. But the only numbers that should be on that slide should be on the X and Y axis of the chart, because that you are telling your financial story. Because for the example here is that if you have I'm telling these kids, if I showed you that, what would you ask about, Boyd?
What's the low spike and the high spike?
That's it. I can tell an entire. There's not even any numbers on here.
Right.
So you don't even know what the X and Y axis is. I can tell you it's time and money. But the whole point is that if you show me a financial journey like this in a financial presentation, and obviously there's a hockey stick at the end because that's what you do. If we just get 1% of that market,
That's right.
we're all going to be billionaires. But in that case, I don't need to say anything. This is my financial journey. So in my annual shareholder meeting, when I show them this, and you already know what happened here, because the general trend goes that way, right? But what happened? Did COVID? Was it a supply chain issue? Did a factory blow up? Did a meteor hit the side of the mountain and toast 85% of your coffee beans?
Were you TikTok viral?
So I've got stories.
I know you do.
But this is what I'm saying is that the numbers themselves, when people say it's just math, it's not just math. We are crafting stories. I mean, and so from my perspective, you are absolutely correct, and that makes now I have another thing I got to stand on. These soapboxes are getting tall, brother.
I trust your balance. I trust your balance.
I love Legos. Tim. I hope they can click into place. You know what I mean? And then the whole Jenga thing. But no, I think you're absolutely right. And how fun would it be to actually have people from, say, not the marketing department. I'm talking like the video production part, the graphics department, to come and actually teach a class to accountants, so that they look at it and go, I don't get it. Why am I learning this? Because at the end of the day, you have to be able to tell a story. Your clients, when you slide that financial statement over to them and go, here you go, they go, what does that mean? I
had a conversation with Mark Koziel, the new CEO at AICPA, right? I've known Mark for a lot of years, and actually I look forward to his leadership and stuff. But we had a conversation about the AICPA in conjunction with state societies used to provide media training for our leaders.
Okay.
So, we could pick 10 people essentially, and they'd bring a media trainer to our offices and train our staff, train our leaders on how to do an interview, how to answer questions, how to stay on point, which never sunk in with me because I rarely stay on point, but
squirrel.
Exactly. What? Oh, I like squirrels. They're so cute. And the conversation we had, and he saw it. I don't know if we're going to be able to do anything with it or not. And but we talk about putting CPAs in classrooms to talk to students, right? And I do hear sometimes that we're doing more damage than we're doing good because we're not telling the story well. Like, they don't care that you had a client that you did a really complicated tax return for, right? They care that I use them all the time, and I have permission. We have two members who are both past chairs of our board, Daryl and Debbie Thaw. They live on St. Simon's Island. They raised two boys on the island. Daryl grew up on the island. They have their own, small firm on the island. They also happen to invest or own a bunch of other small businesses and stuff. They have built this life for themselves that is just really fascinating and really unique and really neat. And they did it as CPAs. And Daryl and Debbie telling their story is so powerful because it's not about being a CPA. It's about what being a CPA can do for you. It's about the type of, existence you can set up for yourself, which whatever you want it to be. I mean, it's endless. The opportunities are endless on that, and telling those stories matters. So anyway, I talked to Mark, and I'm like, we need to teach storytelling to CPAs and then put them in the classroom. And I don't think he disagrees and stuff, but that's kind of a heavy lift, 1-to-1, if you will. So we need to figure out a better way to. I think
it's tough only because certain people, it comes naturally.
Yeah.
To embellish and just BS your way through things. It's like my wife tells me that I should stop embellishing. I say, dude, it makes the story better. She's like, no, you're kind of lying. I'm like, nah, well, maybe, but it's a hell of a story. But no, see, so I agree though. There are certain people that have. They are great at this kind of thing, standing up in front of people and just crushing it. And there are certain people that they want nothing to do with it, and that's okay.
Yeah.
The point is that if you find someone who's like that, who has those types of skills, which is all the reason why we don't want cookie cutter CPAs coming out of school, because we're the rainmakers. The rainmakers are over across the way because they're done dealing with the cookie cutter CPAs. Like, I just want to get my green visor and be the stereotype. you need to have these people.
Technical expert.
The technical expert. So I call myself a nerd. I'm part of the nerdery. But the point is that we do need different people in our profession. And I think that the way that we solve this pipeline issue is we stop cutting them out and start going and embracing this diversity that's out there. That you were mentioning this thing. I wrote down political, social, and economic. Yeah. I mean, there's 3 different places to look at this, but come to find out, when you graduate from the university and you go into that, let's say you go into that CPA firm, or you go into whether it's a not-for-profit, for-profit, you pick one. If someone is employing you, there's 3 things you got to learn very quickly. The political side of whose butt to kiss if you have to, the social ramifications of who's dating who in the office. Don't say anything about that. Don't eat that guy's oatmeal. Stay out of that girl's creamer. You know what I'm talking about. And then you have the economic side of, what do I really bring to the table? What kind of value? Because I can tell you, going into Big Four, you know exactly what your value is, but you don't find out until 2 years later, when you're actually in charge of the budget, that you discount the interns and the staff because they're just not that good at their job yet, right? But hey, you're going to pay a pretty penny for the partners and the directors and the managers and what have you. That's where the experience lies, right? So it's interesting that when you start talking about the storytelling aspect, that's going to be another feather in the cap, man.
I think it'll help us solve. You talked about the gap between what a student coming out of school can do and what the economy needs them to do, right? And in our case, not the broader economy, but certainly CPA firms and companies that are hiring them. That gap's only going to grow because of technology. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because what I keep telling students is the opportunities are going to be even more significant for you quicker, because businesses are going to need you to operate at a higher level faster than what previous generations have had to. And my point is that, again, the wider net we cast and the more different type of people we bring in, I think it easier, I don't know how, but the easier it will be to find creative solutions to closing that gap.
Yeah.
Or if you can't close it, for how you hurdle it.
One of the things that I'll tell my students at SCAD is, and again, they're in the Master of Business Innovation program, and they're there for the reason of they want to get an MBA, but they want it to be more of an innovative MBA, right? Wrapped around their fashion, their luxury and brand management, different things like that, right? What I tell them is, I say, look, I can teach a creative how to speak suit. I can teach you accounting. I can't teach suits how to be creative. And so if that's the gradient that we're working with, then us looking at this small group that made it through the weed out course is great. You're smart, we get it. But all those other people that we left behind, gosh, they're so darn talented that we need them, because now we're running into an issue where we're all the same. Yep. And homogeneousness. I don't know
if that's a word or not, but sure,
it's all the same. Homogeneity. That's how you say it. Homogeneity. It can kill us. It can kill us, and we're seeing it right now. So my thought is that let's change up a little bit. Let's change our approach. We've got high schools we can make some impressions on. We've got certainly something we can test in the university setting. Just switch those 2 classes around, and then like you said earlier, the mentorship. If everybody just realizes that people are watching us everywhere we go, then, hey man, just be yourself, and people are going to gravitate. Be authentic. Tell your stories.
And remember, mentorship is more about listening.
What are you trying to say? I don't get it.
Not you. Anybody, myself included. Yeah. We know a lot. We've had a lot of experience, and so we think sharing that experience is the way to mentor. And sometimes you got to understand before you can. Anyway.
Yeah, I think it's good. Yeah. Hey, listen. So I think this was a great inaugural podcast. I'm glad that you were here to
Thanks for having me
share all of your knowledge. Oh my gosh!
Can we do it again?
I need to clean it up off the table. There's so much around here. Might just be my spit. But,
flattery will get you everywhere.
Yeah, we should absolutely do this again. But next time you're going to wear a Hawaiian shirt.
Sure.
All right. Or a Georgia shirt, something like that. Georgia Hawaiian.
Yeah. Whatever.
Okay, we're gonna get you your own line. GSCPA merch coming at you. But thank you for being here. Business Biceps and BS, and this is the first of many.
Appreciate you very much.
Let's do this. All right.